What are the 8 ethical power techniques?
Well, keep in mind that the three components to all negotiations are power, information, and time. We have to have some form of power in order to negotiate. Otherwise, we're not really the right person to negotiate with. We have to have all kinds of information about what the other side wants and what we're willing to part with in returns for getting it. And then finally, we have to have some kind of time frame for getting it done, or there's never really any motivation or incentive to get a negotiation finished. But power is the one that I think most people overlook. Some people don't like to go buy cars, in fact, most. And the reason is they say they don't feel like they have any power in the negotiation. After all, they want a car and the dealer has it and they have all the control over the price. I say, no, that's not true at all. In fact, we have 8 different kinds of power that each of us can draw on every time we go into a negotiation. In fact, we should plan in advance on which specific types of power might be most effective in any particular negotiation. Now, the first type of power is legitimate power. Let's say, for instance, you're at work and you're negotiating a contract with another company to perform a specific service for your company. You do that because you have legitimate power from your company to do so. You're acting as their agent. Let's say your child wants something and they come to you to ask for it. That's a form of negotiation. And as parent, you have a specific type of legitimate power to negotiate for them. Now, the second kind of power would be reward power. Let's say, for instance, we go back to the work example and you're negotiating for a service for your company. Well, you might say to them, look, I can give you a price, say 10% less than what you're asking, but if you get it for me by this Friday, I'll actually give you a bonus of 5% for performance. That's reward power. So that's the second. The first is legitimate, the second is reward. The third type is what we call coercive power. Now, coercive power is when you actually force somebody into doing something. As a parent, you say, you do that, or I will put you in your room for 2 hours, right? As a boss, you say, this is part of your job, you must do this, or unfortunately, I will have to let you go. So that's coercive power. Policemen might say something to you like, pull the car over and turn the engine off, give me your license and registration. You might say, well, why do I have to do that? I wasn't doing anything wrong. And they say, because if you don't do that, I'll arrest you. That's coercive power. The fourth type is called consistent values power. And I like to use a specific man as an example of consistent values power because this particular politician had an extraordinary ability to negotiate. And he was negotiating with the former Soviet minister Gorbachev when Ronald Reagan said, here's what I need. And Gorbachev said, can't give it to you. And he said, well, then we're not in the ball game. Now, Reagan was known for having a consistent set of values, and Gorbachev knew that he meant what he said. He walked his talk. Consistent values power in negotiation says, look, this is who I am. This is how far I can go. I'll go no farther because that's outside of my values. Now, if you can get the other side to believe that, then over time, those consistent values make you a very powerful negotiator. Of all the people Gorbachev ever negotiated with, he always said he liked to negotiate with Reagan the least because he had this consistent values power. So that's the fourth type of power. The next, President Clinton had in abundance. It's called charismatic power or charm power, the ability to put on the smile and get what you want because you're likable. And it doesn't hurt to be charming in a negotiation. The fact is, people like to be treated with charm. People like to have a smile on your face. People like to get treated well by you because you're happy. The next is called expertise. Now, expertise in the negotiating process is of immense power. If you have expertise on a subject matter, then you actually know more about it than anybody else sitting at the table. This puts you in a unique situation to get what you want because of what you know. So it's called expertise power. The next one is called situational power. What do I mean? Well, let's say that you're in a movie theater and there's a fire that breaks out right in front of you. Due to the situation, you're in a powerful position because you also happen to be next to the door. You stand up, you turn to the crowd and say, we have an incident here in the front. I'd like everybody to file out slowly and I will attempt to put out the fire. So in that situation, you had power. The final of the 8 types of power is called information power. If you know more about your negotiating partner than they know about you, then that information gives you an advantage in the negotiation because you probably have a better idea of what they really want and what they're really willing to pay for it. So get as much information as you can about the person you're negotiating with in advance.